Hi boys and girls, welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing on with our operations with scientific notation. We've already worked on multiplying and dividing and answering how many times larger is one number than another. Now we're going to be working with adding and subtracting numbers in scientific notation. So for our objective for today is I will be able to add and subtract numbers in scientific notation. Alright, so when you are adding numbers in scientific notation, you need to remember one thing. Well, two things. The first thing is if the exponents are the same, all we have to do is simply add or subtract the coefficients, which remember is that number before the multiplication, that whole number right there. We simply have to add or subtract the coefficients and bring down the exponent unchanged. Okay, so what we do with that is 4 plus 3 is 7 times, you just bring that right back down, times 10 to the 6th power. So 4 times 10 to the 6th power plus 3 times 10 to the 6th power equals 7 times 10 to the 6th power. Okay, but what happens if they're different? So now we have 4 times 10 to the 6th power plus 3 times 10 to the 5th. So the exponents are different on this one. So if the exponents are not the same, or if they're different, we must move the decimal a decimal to make them the same. Okay, so we must move the decimal to make them the same. So we need to determine which of those numbers has the smaller exponent. So in this example, 3 times 10 to the 5th power has the smaller exponent. All right, we change this number by moving the decimal place to the left and raising the exponent until the exponents of both numbers are the same. All right, and yes, that is going to take that lesser number out of standard form. It won't be proper. And then, just like we did the first steps, we'll add or subtract the coefficients, and then the exponent will be the exponent that both numbers share. And then if we need to put it in standard form or proper form. So let's see what that looks like. So the same example that we just had, 4 times 10 to the 6th plus 3 times 10 to the 5th. All right, so we need to move the decimal and the smaller number to the left and raise the exponent. So we determined that 3 times 10 to the 5th is the smaller number, smaller exponent. So we need to move the decimal to the left. And in this case, we only need to move it to the left 1 because the difference between 5 and 6 is just 1. So when we move that decimal point over, that number stays the same, so 4 times 10 to the 6th. And when we move it over, we're adding, so we move that decimal over, it is 0.30 times 10 to the 6th. So now our exponents are the same, and now we know what to do here. We just add the coefficients. So when we add the coefficients, oh, here we go. When we add the coefficients, we get 4.30 times 10 to the 6th power. So it's just one extra step if the exponents are not the same. All right, so, and then make sure that that final answer is in scientific notation. If it's not, you need to make sure it's in proper form. So 4.3 times 10 to the 6th is proper form because 4.3 is greater than 1 and less than 10. Okay, so here we go. Let's do one together. So 2.37 times 10 to the negative 6th plus 3.48 times 10 to the negative 4th. Okay, so I want you guys to try this. Pause the video and try it, and then we're going to go over it. Okay, so here's how we find the solution. So we needed to move that 2.37, since that's the smaller number of the two, we need to move that one to make the exponents equal. So we got to move it over 2 places because the difference between negative 6 and negative 4 is 2. So when we move that decimal point over, we get 0.0237 times 10 to the negative 4th. And then we're adding 3.48. We left that the same, times 10 to the negative 4th. When we do the math, when we add the coefficients, we get 3.5037 times 10 to the negative 4th. So check your answers. If you didn't do it the same as me, make sure you fix it and rewind if you need to hear the explanation again. All right, so let's practice with these now that we have kind of walked through them a couple times. So I want you to pause it so then you can try it by yourself and then we'll go over it together. All right, so the sum of 5.6 times 10 to the third and 2.4 times 10 to the third. Okay, So the sum of 5.6 times 10 to the third plus 2.4 times 10 to the third. Okay, so these exponents are already the same. They're already the same, so because they're already the same, we just add. So 6 plus 4 is 10. Add the 1. Bring that decimal point down. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So 8 times 10 to the third. Okay, so 8 times 10 to the third, we see is A. All right, ooh, that's not good, but it's A, circling letter A. Okay. All right, now let's try this one. 8.0 times 10 to the third minus 2.0 or 2.0 times 10 to the third. Okay, so let's try this one. Pause it and try this one. Okay, so I hope that you paused it. So we have 8.0 times 10 to the third minus 2.0 times 10 to the third. Okay, so we've been doing a lot of addition examples, but like as you recall, it's the same thing. Since the exponents are the same, we have 8 minus 2, which is 6, so 6.0, or you could just write, well, since it is 6.0 in this case, you need to keep it the same. It's not just 6. So 6.0 times 10 to the third. So our answer this time is letter C. Okay, let's do another example. So pause it and try it. Pause it and try it. So we have 7.0 times 10 to the third plus 2.0 times 10 to the second. Okay, so since they're different, we need to change. We need to make a change, and since 10 times 10 to the second is the smaller exponent, we're going to move this one. So the difference between 3 and 2 is just 1, so we just need to move this to the left once. So now we have 7.0 times 10 to the third plus, and now we have 0.2 times 10 to the third. Okay, so 7.2 times 10 to the third. So the answer is C. Okay. And the last example that we are going to do here is 3.5 times 10 to the fifth plus 7.8 times 10 to the fifth. Okay, so the first thing that we have, 3.5 times 10 to the fifth plus 7.8 times 10 to the fifth. This one, the exponents are already the same for us, so they're making our lives easier. So bring that 10 to the fifth right down. 5 plus 8 is 13. Okay, plus 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So now we have 11.3 times 10 to the fifth. Now we haven't done one exactly like this with addition, but we've done it with other problems. We need to make this proper, so we need to move this over 1. So we'll have 1.13 times 10, and when we move that over, we needed to add 1. So 1.13 times 10 to the 6th power. So the answer, once again, is C. All right, so I forgot to make a slide about this, but please remember that to add 2 questions. Now, some of you have been coming in to class and with just one question and keep telling me like, well, I didn't have any other questions. Well, if you don't have any other questions, then you think a little bit. Think about how you can apply it. Instead of just asking me, well, how does this apply to real life? Why don't you apply it more? Well, what happens if we need to raise it to the 10th power and one's raised to the second, and we need to move the decimal place over 8 places? Or what happens, like, is there a way that I can check my work? Think a little bit more and ask good questions and not just, how long are we going to do this? When's the test? If you need to resort back to those, that's fine, but try to think a little bit and come up with really good questions. I didn't have any questions is not a good excuse for not having these 2 questions. So thank you so much for actively listening. Don't worry, we're going to be going over this again in class. So with that, have a great night or evening, afternoon, and I will see you later.